Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the ICT Educator webinar series. I'm Steve Wright, and I'm the statewide director of the ICT sector team, which is part of the Workforce Economic Development Department, the California Community College System. And these webinars are brought to you by our entire sector team, and they're produced by Nicole Sherman. Our guest speakers all volunteer their time for the sake of student success in our system. On our website now, we have, I think it's 59. Yes, webinars recorded and with transcript, slides, links, and these are very successful. A lot of these are how-to techniques that you can use, and most of our faculty, as a result of a survey, told us they use them directly in their classroom a lot of times. So it's really having a big value. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to take a look at new way of creating a pathway. I think it's an AI, artificial intelligence, at Skyline College, working with Semiconductor Industry Association. And what they were able to pull off, and it's very innovative. I recommend you take a look at not only what they developed, but how they developed it. Following that, Facebook has been pretty successful in rolling out some new certifications. And they initially had high-level certifications for social media type stuff. Then they realized they wanted to make it more accessible for all. And so they've been rolling out more entry level. Was they're going to talk about their program and their scholarship program and their diversity approach and everything else they do on May 7th. And we have a number of colleges in the Bay region that are already working with them. So that's going to be kind of exciting to get caught up to speed with that. And that'll wrap up our spring session. Today is going to be interesting. For a long time, people have asked questions like, well, if I've already got my A+, and do I need to take this course that's the same thing? And what flexibility has there been? So this whole idea of credit for prior learning is really important in a sector like information communications technologies, where we have so many well-established third-party certifications, and a lot of our classes teach to them. So we're very interested to see how we can adopt credit for prior learning. So today we're pleased to have the architects and experienced leaders of the community college system talk to us about credit for prior learning and their experience. So first I'm going to ask Shanti Guinea, who is pretty much the lightning rod for everything happening in the Chancellor's office, and who has coordinated this entire presentation here, to share what's going on there. And then Odamaris and Jackie will come in with more particulars on how you could get involved. And I think one of the key things, Shanti, that you and I talked about initially was that in order for this to work, colleges have to take a championship role. They have to do it. You can lay out the blueprint for them, but they have to do it. And so that's a lot of what today's about, is how they do that. So I'll turn it over to you, Shanti.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to share perspectives with you this morning. First, just want to share perspectives from the Chancellor's office, our statewide goals attributed to CPL, and to acknowledge, first and foremost, that CPL is by all means absolutely an equity lever. If you think of our vision for success and also our goals towards strengthening the vision towards success for students, you can notice there on the left, our vision for success goals, sort of what we're orienting ourselves around currently to achieve those key metrics. So increasing credential obtainment by 20%, increasing transfer by 35%, decreasing unit obtainment, increasing CTE employment for students, erasing equity gaps, reducing equity gaps, and also reducing regional equity gaps. By all means, credit for prior learning is a critical lever to help to continue to meet those key milestones to strengthen our vision. And then on the right there, I just wanted to offer kind of some perspectives around other equity levers that are attributed to credit for prior learning. So for instance, we know that most Californians, who can benefit from credit for prior learning are in fact people of color. Ages 25 to 54 is the oftentimes disproportionately impacted population. When we think around equity and also erasing, regional gaps, erasing equity gaps, credit for prior learning is a viable option for access for many of our students that need it most. Also, credit for prior learning validates our college level learning, validates college level learning that has occurred. So we think in terms of experiential learning, like what often are adults in ages 25 to 54, rich insights, the experiences that they bring with them on their education journey. CPL absolutely could be a mechanism to validate that learning. CPL saves students money and time. We think about our vision for success and our goal to increase credential attainment, to decrease unit attainment, and also to increase transfer. CPL is a powerful vehicle to help students to achieve those education milestones. And also CPL increases the community college employer partnerships. I know many of you here today have great partnerships. We might even have our industry partners on our webinars with us today. And just in all the great things that Steve Wright and his team do on the ICT Educator webinar series. We look forward to continually strengthening those employer partnerships. And also, Credit Required Learning aligns with our vision for success, a strong workforce, right pathways, strengthening the vision, just all of those critical equity levers to help students to fulfill their education outcomes. So also just want to offer some perspectives around sort of statewide activities that are occurring kind of behind the scenes as we look at about a year ago this time, when our Credit Required Learning amended Title V regulations went into effect. That was by all means, just we have great practitioners that are system-wide that help us to continually to form into shape and to keep the framework for CPL advancing throughout the system. So we do have a Chancellor's Office statewide CPL work group. The purpose of the work group is to provide recommendations and perspectives to the Chancellor's Office on alternative methods for awarding credit, and to also assist colleges in establishing and maintaining viable CPL mechanisms. The work group is co-chaired by myself and also Myra Cruz, a representative with the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. And we also have esteemed representatives, for instance, from the Chancellor's Office, from Academic Senate, both faculty and counselors, 5C representatives, OEI representatives, CACRO, the Admissions and Records Officers, our CSU System Office, great partners from CSU, and also CALE, the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning, who've been just phenomenal in helping to offer viable insights and best practices around prior learning assessment. On the horizon, we also have goals to continue to provide recommendations on best practices to support CPL, to leverage CPL frameworks system-wide and truly build and strengthen those as we look to ongoing professional development opportunities with our system partners as well. So just before I close, just want to continue to encourage the great work that you're doing. Think of it as a system of improvement. So we think of evidence-based planning, kind of taking a look at what works, what's working great within Credit Required Learning innovations. Those Title V regulations that were amended by all means greatly expanded opportunities for Credit Required Learning. So thinking of evidence-based planning around those expanded opportunities. And also as you implement and bringing those practices to scale, and we'll continue to provide system-wide resources. I know our Palomar partners in CPL and Palomar College have just been phenomenal with sharing, sort of bringing to scale and sharing what's really worked great across their campus with CPL. Also their development of a system-wide toolkit around CPL to help colleges to highlight those best practices. And then again, verifying the results with data. So on the horizon in the future, we'll look forward to working with our management information systems partners to build out a Credit Required Learning data elements, an entire schematic for data collection around CPL to take a look at the results and looking at what's working. So again, a continuous process of improvement, and we're just so fortunate to have dedicated and passionate practitioners like yourself helping us to shape and to frame and to lead this great work on behalf of our students. So on that, I will pass it back to Steve, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Shante. And I think Odamaris, you're ready to roll.
I'm Professor Valdivia, and I am from Santa Monica College. I also work for some of the other community college like Valley College. So I want to welcome all of you to this presentation. One of the what we are planning to do is I'm going to go very quickly on the the layout that we already have in place. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, we get a lot of people motivated to go to their campus and start doing it at their campus. Jackie Martin, she will show some examples of what is being done in Palomar, which they have a very amazing program right now. And this presentation will also give you some of the links where we got this information and links for Palomar College that you can use in your college. One of the things that I wanted to mention is, of course, what credit for prior learning and how this is going to help our students. And mainly, not only they're going to help them, we're going to recognize their skills, but also time saving for them and cost money saving, so that they can get all these certificates that we have created for them. So if we can find a way to do this for them, we're going to have more educated people in California also, because the business industry also needs students that comes with all these skills. So again, students' knowledge and skills, again, is something that they might have gained from military industry, the government, I will say. Also, we have programs in our college today that we offer apprenticeship, internship, work-based learning. So all that experience should be allowed, especially if we sponsor that, we should allow students to get credit for it. And they don't have to sit down. And sometimes time is, like everybody say, time is money. They don't have to be sitting in our classroom when they have to be learning the same thing that they already know. What they should be learning is what they don't know. So that's the whole purpose of this program. Another thing that we want to that I want to emphasize is that there is a research that, again, it was done in the, is a toolkit that was prepared from this chancellor's office, where it was, the outcome was that students were more likely to get a degree than those that did not have a certificate. Also, when they accumulate all this credit and they start getting motivated to go back to school, our enrollment increased. The college benefit from it. And also, when students finished their certificates, you know that today, that's a plus for the college, because now we're being paid by the outcome of the students, not necessarily what we used to be paid just by having a body in the classroom. So this is very important for us today. And also the research point out that students will save from 6 to 10 months, which could be very significant for maybe students who has a family and they have to support their family. We want them to start getting all this experience so that they can find better jobs. The whole purpose is that to improve their lives, and not the life for the students necessarily, but also their quality of life, because they also benefit their families. Now, with the way that this was came about is we had a participant and group of faculty from different disciplines, and we actually got together 20 and 2021 fiscal year. And we had different disciplines participating. And as you can see, they come from different areas. Of course, this one is going to be specific to computer information system and computer science. But we did have, we brought different expertise into the table. Also, a lot of colleges were involved, participated, and this is 19 of those colleges. So if your name is not there from one of your colleges, we need you to be the champion to go back and to promote these program in your college. So some of the methods that we are going to discuss about credit for prior learning We already have some in place, but other ones we're just gonna add in. And we already have some standardized examinations. We can use that for students. We'll also, one of the things we really wanted to do too is help our military veterans. They come with so much experience and they spend a lot of times sometimes serving for our country. And when they come, we want them, sometimes we force them to start from the very beginning. And I think this will be our opportunity to recognize that they don't have to start from the very beginning. They can start, if we find the methods of giving them some credit by examination, or if they come with industry recognized credential, we can help them, promote them to get all these degrees faster, and they will be much more motivated to stay in college and find jobs, because we want them to find jobs. And of course, we want also a student, we can create some portfolios, because sometimes there are certain, I will say, areas in which, like, I will throw up like auto mechanic, for example, that they might not have something that they can't necessarily a simple examination, but they have to demonstrate things, or they have to show things. Also with designers, will probably a portfolio will help. So there are some examples that Jackie will present of what they're doing in Palomar, but this is some examples of what we have in there. This is a very brief. We have a little bit more of this when you go and visit Palomar, and you can see the links that I provided to you. But of course, we know the students have to be in good standing. There are rules that students will have to follow based on the campus, but most of these rules, we already have them for our credit courses. So we're not adding anything more. So so those are the things that we want to emphasize, that when students have all these good standing, they have taken classes for our certificates, which, you know, some colleges, they specify that they want at least 12 units in their college before they can get a certificate. So it's the same policy, it's not changing any of that. And then students have to be active, of course, and the classes that, the credit that we're going to give to the students are credit that exists in our campus. We're not going to give credit for something that doesn't exist or maybe exists in another college. So those are, you know, kind of the layout that I want to mention. Also, one thing that it is that is emphasized into what already exists is that this credit by examination will not be something like the load for selective service. Sometimes they have show proof that they're taking classes, so it will not apply to that. Or for Social Security benefits, that will not apply. So we need to be, the reason why we have to understand what applies and what doesn't apply is because we might be the people advising them. Okay, faculty, staff will be the people doing all this. So that's what we need to understand, how this works. And also we will have to be able to count again as hours. So for a associate degree. So if they have a minimum amount of hours that, or units that they have to earn it, they will have to do that. Also, in the grading policy, again, is the same thing that we have on Title V. We have the same grading scale. Also, we can offer pass, no pass. So, you know, and I'm going to talk about the certifications, industry certification, which is pass, no pass also. So we could do that. So if if we give a credit by examination and they get 50%, I mean 70 or 80%, 80% is our minimum, and that's a pass, then we should have that. And we also have to, since it's a credit for them to get a degree, students can also challenge. So it will have the same weight as a regular course. They can accept it, decline it, and they can even challenge the grading or whatever, you know, they're challenging. When it comes to the transcription on the CPL, that's when it goes into the records. Students will have that line set up into their transcript that it will say that that credit that they got, it is for CPL. Also, one thing that the district, and they have to put it in the board to when they submit it, is that we cannot guarantee that the CPL will be accepted into another university, for example. But we can always be working side by side with universities to promote that, to say, hey, we're going to make sure that if we give credit, this student will have the right preparation so that when you go to your university, it will be accepted. So I think having very good relationship with the universities is a plus, is a must, I will say, so that because we're in here to help our students. Now, when it comes to credit for military and training, there is a lot of different transcript, and I just put the abbreviation because it's a huge list. But these are some of the different type of transcript that the students can bring to us, and we just have to find a way to evaluate them. And we can also had some kind of recommendation with the American Council of Education that they do have some kind of reviews, and they can help us and guide us to say which training goes with what. So we can also work in that aspect. When it comes to industry recognized credential, we have students, again, that they might want to, if they have been, especially, let's say somebody who has experience in the industry, and I'm going to give you an example in Excel, and they don't want to take my Excel class, for example, and they can prove to me that they can pass one of these tests. Then I'm not going to make them redo the test because they already passed the test. And I'm going to give you some example of the different credentials. We have a lot of MOUS exam, which is from Microsoft certifications. And Microsoft is also adding a lot more with not just software, but also now with what is Azure and all these IT certifications. So this is a very good way to help our students. As a faculty, one of the biggest recommendations that I will do, take the test yourself, because the only way we can sell a product is by testing it. So I personally have take almost every single certification that I can get a hold on, because now I can even talk to the industry and say, hey, these students know what they're talking about. And if they pass the certification, it's because they know Excel. They cannot do X, Y, and Z if they don't have the knowledge. So I will say that, that I, with certainty, that these certifications do have a big weight, because the student has to be very knowledgeable to pass it. Okay, and then of course we have some certification when it comes to business. A lot of business areas do requires a lot of computer skills. So that's why we have some examples of QuickBooks, because we have it in my area, QuickBooks. So that's what we wanted to emphasize. Also, the portfolio, I put a bunch of links that Jackie will talk about it. They have amazing portfolio. And we do have some similar to Santa Monica, but it's more for our graphic design department, because we do have a bachelor's degree and the students have to walk with a portfolio. But if they have industry skills, we don't make them take, and they validate some of those for the bachelor's, but they have to have a huge portfolio and proof that they already met those skills. So it's not just limited to community, to a degree. It also applies to some bachelor's degree too, okay? When it comes, and again, this is another example that I wanted to bring it up. I put a link. I went even to Arkansas. I flew to Arkansas in my internet because I found a really cool portfolio that they had a lot of pieces, and I was amazed how they put it together. The students had to have a lot of proof to get credit for certification. So they put an example in there. So I went ahead and I put the link in that website. Now, when it comes to credit by examination from within the district, students may earn, again, credit by receiving a pass, no pass. These are a specialized exam, so they're not the standardized exam. So I wanted to point it out. And also the examination may require, again, the demonstration of the skills. I can only picture technically something, for example, auto mechanic, they have to show, demonstrate physically if they know how to change the oil or, do all the things that they say they have to do. I will say for a web designer, they have to demonstrate that they know how to do a website. So those will be the skills that they have to actually demonstrate. When it comes to cost, of course, everything that we want to do is save money to our students, and we want them to maybe just pay for the courses that and the knowledge that they don't have, so that they can proceed faster into getting a certification from community colleges. So there is only for credit by examination, the college may collect funding. It doesn't mean it must, but it may collect funding. But the funding is limited to the tuition rate. It cannot be more than the tuition rate. So again, it depends on how the college lay out this, but they may do, because this one emphasis that I want to do is that whoever makes the recommendations for these exams, it is actually the faculty of that discipline. It's not going to be the admissions. It's not going to be the administration. It's actually the community colleges, the ones who will be, the discipline that has the specialty, who will be determine all these examinations and the credits and what the students what we can accept as college. And the benefits, again, for the students, the college, and the community is that students need to take, of course, the courses to get back to the workforce, like I mentioned to you before, and also recognizing that they already know this stuff. I think students get more motivated when we have that acknowledge, hey, you know stuff, you don't need to repeat it. They want that. They don't want to be told that what they know is not valid. Also, when it comes to these certifications, we need a whole team. So it's not just a faculty, it's administration, it's counseling, we have to integrate all that with the people who works in the guided pathway. We also have to, again, develop a clear path for students. So one of the things that I know we have done, that we do in a guided pathway, is we lay out what the students should be having into their courses. So why don't we add just a small little section in what we already have of a course that could be taken by examination. We could do that. We can say CPL applies, because I know that some of the higher level sometimes courses do not apply, but some of the lower division courses could apply for this, and we could recognize it. And if students know, hey, I can take a test for that, they might as well, even before they go into the program, they can test out. They can test out and try. And if they pass, hey, one less course that they have to take. So, but it has to be clear and put on the process. And of course, we have to assign a specific staff that would handle that. So again, it's a whole team of that we need in place for this to actually be successful. And of course, the college has to be willing to have a whole professional development where we have webinars like this for faculty and staff, where we train people. And also we need to be working with academic senate, our representative, because they have some decision making in the process. We also have to have, again, training for admissions, counselors, faculty, and everybody who is involved into the program. and always seek some of the resource outside the college that will support us, like the American Council on Education and the Council on Adult and Experimental Learning, because they will help us with those transcripts that sometimes we might not be able to know, to pass it through. So at this point, I'm going to stop my share because we got to the end. And yes, this is me and this is Jackie. So you can read our bio. And then at the end, you do have some of the reference to of the same links. And it will be available for anybody who needs that for you to use it in your for information. So I'm going to stop sharing and the floor is yours.
Wow. There's a lot. It is amazing how complicated this can be, but you seem to have simplified it somewhat. And now Jackie's going to show us how incredibly simple it is.
So Shantae and Odamars did a really good job of giving us the conceptual overview, right, of credit for prior learning. And so what I'd like to focus on is the actual implementation of a CPL, and the example that I'm using is Palomar. So I'm going to start with my files only because sometimes when you go to the website, I'll take you to the website in a moment at Palomar, but I'm going to give you a process. You might want to take notes. I've done a few of these workshops now, and there's a lot of information related to credit for prior learning, but I want to give you just a few bullet points of how to get started at your college with credit for prior learning. Okay, so first of all, you need to talk to the right people. Who are the right people? You can determine who that is at your college. However, I can tell you it worked at Palomar. At the time, I was the VP of the Senate, so I got the Senate involved. I asked for release time from the Senate. We didn't have enough, but they were willing to do it. I talked to the president of the college because I met with him every week, just on a regular basis as part of the Senate. And he said, yes, absolutely. I said, in order for this to work, I think we need release time. Ask for release time. You need a coordinator. You can't have a faculty member or even two faculty members, in my opinion, do this successfully. There's a lot of work involved. You have to institutionalize it. We knew that would be important. How did we do that? We made credit for prior learning report to the faculty senate. So we have a reporting relationship. We now have a committee, credit for prior learning committee. We have a credit for prior learning coordinator. I'm going to show you her information in a moment. And that's how we started. And then I love work groups. We had a 3-person work group, myself, Candace Rose, and Ben Mudgett had the initial conversations about how to implement and really institutionalize this at Palomar. Shantae mentioned, I think, strong workforce and guided pathways. Our money actually ended up coming out of guided pathways. And that's where the money's coming from now, to pay for Candace and also to pay for our faculty who are now working with credit for prior learning. I'm meeting in the next few weeks with the first 3 students in business to give them credit for prior learning for certifications. One is QuickBooks. She's following an accounting pathway. The other one is real estate. She's taken some private classes for real estate and wants to translate that information to real estate classes in our department. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you understand the policy, right? Make sure you're doing everything right, and not wrong. Don't want to break the law, right? Ed code. And then you want to sit down and think about within your department, what courses, this is the wrong one, sorry. What courses do you want to have count for credit for prior learning? And so we came up with this spreadsheet and we created a template for all colleges. You can grab our stuff, feel free to use it. We used it as a starting point. We came up with this at Palomar College. And then I went to the state, to the credit for prior learning workshop at the state level. And then I started working with a few faculty from across the state. And we just met 3 or 4 times and talked a lot about this template. And you can use this as a starting point. So let me start right here. So what are the methods that we can use to grant credit for prior learning? Probably the one that most faculty, or I'd say, faculty have been around for a while, recognize is credit by exam. We've had that at Palomar College for a long time, but I can tell you that the younger faculty don't really recognize that. But that's essentially a process whereby the student says, okay, I'd like to challenge this class. A faculty member gives them an exam and they can take the exam and they pass or they don't pass. And then that grade is transcripted. Students can do a credit by exam pass, or they can do a credit by exam for grade. We recommended at our college that mostly we want to do credit by exam for a grade so that that course will articulate with other colleges if they decide to transfer somewhere down the line. Joint service transcript relates to folks who have military experience. About 17% of our students at Palomar College are veterans. So this is a very strong avenue for our veterans. And we have a counselor who's dedicated to this, by the way, at Palomar. And you'll see this on the information page when we get to the website. Another way in which we can demonstrate proficiency is via a portfolio. You can determine what kind of portfolio you're going to use. We're going to show you some examples, and you can use our rubric as a starting point as well, because we have a rubric for portfolio examinations. This will cross the gamut, right, of career tech ed classes. It could be someone taking a video of themselves doing some work, via auto, like maybe an auto mechanics or air conditioning, heating, refrigeration, or an art class or ceramics class, or graphic design. We get a lot of people who come in with, from graphic design, or they could use portfolium.com and put anything, any class projects, any former work experience. They can continue to build that portfolio. And I'll show you portfolium.com in a moment too. So that's another avenue. Industry certification, licensure, we're all familiar with that in CTE. There's so many, right? There's QuickBooks, there's real estate exams, there's all the IC3 and Certiport exams, and supply chain management and logistics. And I think bookkeeping just came out with an industry certification exam. Business communications, which is my favorite to teach, favorite class to teach, just came out with an industry exam. So there's a lot of potential here. And then these have been around for a while. The International Baccalaureate, if a student comes to campus with that, advanced placement, their counselor's going to know, and the CLEP. That's all, this is all counseling, right? So that's going to happen in counseling. So counseling is a huge element of this as well. All right, so what does this template look like if it's all filled out? At Palomar College, this is what it looks like. So here's all of our courses at Palomar College. Here's the course number. CSU and UC, by the way, are still developing their policies on whether or not they are going to accept credit for prior learning for courses that would be articulated and for transfer. And it's looking positive. But here is what you can do already. So we've highlighted the CPL assessment method, and then just check, check, check. For these courses, we as a faculty in our department have determined that these are the methods by which we will accept credit for prior learning as an assessment. Okay, it's all on the website. I'll show you in a moment. Any questions?
So do students have access to this information, or is this through a counselor? They ask.
Students will have information or access to all of this. It's all on the website. You'll see that in a moment. And we have just developed, this is, I think, a really exciting piece, and we conceptualized this all like a year and a half ago, that to implement this, we needed to have a process that would follow them from the beginning of the process, from applying for credit for prior learning to the very end, to transcripting it on their transcript. And I'll show you that in a moment. And students can see all of that, and they're brought into the process from the very beginning. They're meeting with me as the chair. They're meeting with a counselor who's dedicated to credit for prior learning, and they're meeting with Candace. Their very first meeting is with the coordinator for CPL, the counselor for CPL, and the chair relevant to the courses they're applying for. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor the issue, but I mean, if this goes well, I mean, if a student comes to you and they've got some very interesting certifications or things already, does it really go like, oh, I've got these, and now that I get credit for 3 of them? I mean, is there a limit, and how fluid is it? Because right now it sounds pretty complicated. But I mean, does it,
Yeah.
the student experience, is it smooth or what?
Yeah, no. It's not really that complicated. And in fact, what the complicated part is what I'm showing you here, right? Is that getting it instituted at your college, like finding a coordinator, and that kind of thing. But actually meeting with a student is great. It's just like any other meeting that I'm having as a faculty member or chair. We set a meeting. I have 3 meetings over the next 2 weeks with 3 different students, with Candace and with the counselor. And then we just start. It really, to me, feels a lot like the course equivalency and substitution process as a chair that you go through. You have to reach out to your faculty, your discipline experts, and say, hey, take a look at this course. Here's the course, here's the unofficial copy of their transcripts. We look at that, and then they bring in their evidence, right? And we look at that. But no, it's not that big a deal.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. And so this is a rubric which you can take a look at. And I just want to, so we've got the criterion. We just came up with 3. We want to have the students examine and compose their evidence. They bring their evidence. Then we want the student to identify, discuss, apply the learning. How do they do that? They can do it through all those other methods of assessment that we showed you. And then we actually want for the students to be able to, in person, when we get back, out of COVID, be able to articulate what they learned. So the integration, the articulation, that higher level of knowledge, that they understand it, what it is that they learned and how they can apply it. So here's a rubric that you could, again, use as a starting point. And then let me take you out to, I knew that was going to happen. I had the website open and all the windows open and it disappeared. So let me find the proper, I want to show you the Palomar College website. Let me just make it up again. Okay, so this is our main page. Doesn't hurt to show you how to get there anyhow. And just, search for credit for prior learning. Be the second link, actually.
And by the way, I posted this site on the PowerPoint.
Okay, great. Thank you, Odamar's. And so in terms of simplicity, here's where the students reach out. Preferred email address, phone number, how can we help you? What are you interested in? It's that easy. This, believe it or not, is the beginning of the automated survey that's dynamic, that follows them through the whole process. CPL materials and courses, what I was just showing you, everything that you need to find is right here. And the things that I pulled out to simplify it for you are the important things. This template, we just looked at the template, the rubric. Feel free to grab this information, use it at your college, these 2 links, and then a portfolio review as an example of a portfolio. We've got a step-by-step guide, on how to do that. And there's all kinds of examples. There's another site called portfolium.com, and Oda Mars has placed that in the PowerPoint as well. So once the student fills out that form on the right, they can also look at this. This is what is credit for prior learning. I think Shantae and Oda Mars did a great job of presenting that. But then the credit for prior learning course list. So that course list that you saw in business has been replicated throughout most of our departments on campus. So the students can go here and they can say, okay, what degree, certificate, or program are you looking at? And here they all are. So these are all of our degrees and programs that are participating. Most of them are participating already in credit for prior learning. So we're going to take a look at, I think I picked accounting. Sure. And then see how it's populating now, the courses. And then again, pulled from that spreadsheet. We use that spreadsheet example, the template for every department on campus, gave that information to Candace. She worked with the programmers on our campus at no additional cost, and they programmed all of this. So when the student clicks on accounting, they see, oh, wow, like look at all these classes that I can apply for in accounting to use credit for prior learning. And then these are the methods that by which we can grant, right? Credit for prior learning. That also came from that template. And that's why I showed you that Excel spreadsheet as your starting point. That's your template, that's your starting point.
Jackie, if I could just quickly ask you, just so you mentioned the Excel spreadsheet, there was a question in the chat regarding to the far left of that Excel spreadsheet, there's a column for the courses. And
Yes.
there's 3 red asterisk symbols. Can you speak to what exactly those?
Oh, yeah. So the 3 red asterisks, I just marked those as courses that for their transfer courses. They're transfer courses. And so the 3 asterisks indicate that they are transfer courses and that they have a CID identifier at cid.net.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, so this, and of course you can, select the assessment method and then it refines the results and so forth. And it also then relates to our Palomar pathway to the meta majors that we have established. So we have another website at another web page at Palomar that describes our path, the Palomar pathways as part of the pathways program. And business has 7 that will relate to that. Okay, so this is a really good link, very, very helpful. So again, the major degree, the assessment method, and the Palomar pathway or meta major that relates to.
So, excuse me, but there's a question came up that already, and I see another one in the chat here. It has to do with, I guess, the ability to qualify for CID or transfer courses. And that sounds like it's still kind of being determined.
It is.
I would think that a student would be in some sort of jeopardy if they got credit for prior learning for one of those courses, but it wasn't approved. So how are you handling that right now?
Well, it's really being handled. So we're deferring to our articulation officer, and our articulation officer is Ben Mudgett, and Ben and Candace are the 2 co-coordinators for credit for prior learning. And so Ben is keeping us all apprised of the progress there. So those discussions are happening at the state level, at the UC and CSU level, and then that information is being relayed to us.
So is that a transfer dialogue, or do they also have their own credit for prior learning exercise going on as well?
No, that's their dialogue. You establish your credit for prior learning process at the college, and then that dialogue at the UC and CSU system is related to credit for prior learning and whether those courses for transfer will qualify.
But it does occur to me that if they had a credit for prior learning model going, that could precipitate down, and we could do this similar type.
Yeah, I don't think they have that going, do they, Shantae, at the state level? I think that's
next stage. Okay.
I'm sorry, I was in the chat. Can you repeat it? I apologize.
I don't think they have their own. I don't think they have their own credit for prior learning process or dialogue going at the transfer level at the UCs and CSUs, do they?
Actually, with the CSU system, we do have CSU representatives that are currently on our statewide CPL work group. So we are working closely with them to align policies with CPL. And also with UC, as I understand it, we're still working towards that. Our executive leadership team, our executive vice chancellor and vice chancellor continue to work with the UC. But definitely at the CSU level, we do have representatives on our work group to discuss and to align policy.
Right, but they're not actually developing the credit for prior learning process at that level. The credit for prior learning process is being developed at each college. Is that right?
Correct, as I understand, that's how they describe it, similar to ours, where it's more so faculty driven, but the executive orders, yeah, but
very faculty driven. Yep, great, thank you. Okay, so that's the course list, and then the student. We'll take a look at the student resources. And so here's the process. They set up an ed plan with a counselor. They go to the student resource page here. They look at the mapper, which is where I was just showing you all of that information. This is specific to veterans because we have such a high population of veterans at Palomar. And then this kind of groups together those exams that often come from a student's high school transcript. So those are the student resources, and then the bulk of the resources are here at the CPL materials and resources page. And I did want to mention too that, you know, the end product is that these courses end up on the student's transcript. And so they are transcripted. They become part of that. And my, again, just as to show you how we did it at Palomar, my ADA, my academic department assistant for the department, every ADA was tasked with entering the proper code for each course across the campus that qualifies for credit for prior learning. So now when you look at anything on you look at our catalog, it'll be coded as credit for prior learning, and various you know, areas that students interface with. They will see when a course is available for credit for prior learning, it's changed our caps. In other words, like now there's a couple more slots in my QuickBooks class, you know, for students who might be in there for credit for prior learning, for example. And so it is really fully implemented at that level. I wanted to show you an example of what it looks like on the transcript. Tell me if you see, here we go, CPL transcript examples. There we go. Okay, and so that's how that would show up on the transcript. Okay, I don't want to give you any kind of you know, information overload, but again, just a tremendous number of links and information here. But again, I would really highlight the transcript example, the portfolio review, the template as a starting point, and the rubric to define the, again, as a starting point for a portfolio, which is, I think, going to be a really common method for students to demonstrate CPL. Faculty resources. I talked about the entire process in a video that Candace did with me about a month ago, and it just talks about credit for prior learning from the student perspective, the faculty perspective, implementing it, ideating it, institutionalizing it, and so forth, and the impact that it makes on students' lives in terms of saving them money, saving them time, helping them achieve, you know, success with their programs and program completion, and then helping the college experience that same success as well. And then, of course, ultimately putting students to work, right, which is what they want. So here's that video, and you can watch this on your own time. Here I am in my studio. You'll recognize the same studio that I'm in right now, which is my family room. And fortunately, my dog's being good. But halfway through this video, you're going to see her running around the family room. Okay, but in any case, and then the contact page. So the people that you really want to contact, I'm very active as a faculty member in credit for prior learning, but so are other faculty at Palomar. But Candace has the release time right now. So she's the coordinator. And then Ben is our articulation officer, and he's business faculty. He's in my department as well. And he serves on the curriculum sub. So that's the other piece. It's involved in curriculum. So you want Senate involved, you want your college president on board, you want your curriculum committee to create, for example, a subcommittee on credit for prior learning, because this is faculty driven, it's curriculum. Curriculum is under the purview of the Senate, and curriculum, of course, is under the purview of the curriculum committee. Create a subcommittee, assign somebody to that. If it's your AO, great, even better, because they're going to be on top of the CSU and UC information. Also, that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Jackie, that's fantastic. I think all of us are going to jump on your Palomar website and
why not?
show
Yeah.
it to somebody else and say, hey, make this for us. You know.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, there you go. I'll stop sharing now.
I have a question, because, you know, so much of what we've talked about today just sounds like a good idea, and most of us can see where it could help the colleges and the students and everything else. But Jackie, do you have a goal in mind? Does your college, when you made the decision, did you say, well, we should be able to get X number of students more than we would otherwise because we're giving them credit for prior learning, and therefore this is going to help build our funnel? I mean, what was the thinking process behind justifying this effort and the release time and everything else? Because it's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment. And I think the first fear was that faculty would perceive it as an additional workload, but quite frankly, credit by exam has been around for a very long time. In terms of having a stretch goal of how many students we wish to have enrolled, no, we didn't determine that. We just decided that we were very committed to helping students succeed and to helping them. I mean, if you look at the statistics, I don't know exactly what they're now, how long, we all know that, right? How long does it take a community college student to get through their program? It's just way too long, something like 5 to 7 years or something, you know, and most of our students are working adults. So I think this just resonated with everybody, but we didn't set a specific student goal, not yet.
Okay. All right, let's see the questions in the chat here had to do with the, it was answered by Shanti, but is there a limit at Palomar as to how many courses a person could use credit?
Yeah,
And-
so the limit will be determined by the limits that are local to Palomar College. So for example, if Palomar, if our policy currently, I think, is that no more than 50% of the units. And so that's something that is, it's local, it's unique to your college.
So I put a comment in the chat. I was on the ICT webinar this morning. I'm sorry, the SEAC webinar this morning with Candace and Ben. I thought I heard Candace mention that right now there's not a limit. So I'll clarify that in the chat. I apologize.
Yeah, and I, you know, she probably has more recent information than I do. However, I can tell you that I'm already looking at, like, for example, this one real estate student that I have coming my way wants to challenge every course in a particular certificate, and I'm not really on board with that. So right now it's coming down to a faculty decision, I think. I often will tell my students, you know, you need more recency. You need to take a course, especially in CTE, that's more recent, you know. And so I'll direct them to 1 or 2 courses at Palomar. But I about a year and a half ago, I think it was, and again, the policy changes, but I think we're at 50%, and maybe now it is unlimited. I'm not sure, but faculty have to embrace that, and I have to sign off on it as a chair, and I probably won't do that. I wouldn't feel comfortable signing off on a student bringing courses or experience from elsewhere and signing off on every single course. I can't envision that right now.
Well, it's great. There's a wonderful status. You know, when we wanted to put this presentation together, or invite you all to come speak, I had no idea if it would just be a bunch of murky possibilities, or whether people were actually doing it or what. I'm so pleased. This is great. Jackie and Oda Maris, thank you for sharing, and Shantae for heading this up. There may be some more questions, and I'm sure we could deal with them after words, but right now we have pretty much used up our special hour of the ICT Educator Series. So I want to thank our presenters and everybody that's here today for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next week. This is recorded, let everybody know, and we'll probably have it out with the transcript. And there's so much stuff Jackie said that was, I'm just dying to read it on transcript, because if she had slides, I'd be like taking screen grabs right now, but she was talking. So fortunately, we write all that down. Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Oda Maris. Thank you, Sean. Y'all take care. See you next week.
Yeah. Bye.
And everybody.
Bye. Thank you.